3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon and welcome to the decision session for the Executive Member for Environment and Climate Change. Before I forget, Happy New Year to everybody, and 2021 has got to be better than the previous 12 months. So let's crack on with the agenda because I know everybody's time is extremely precious. First point on the agenda is declarations of interest, which I finally worked out was to do with me, and I don't have any. I'm assuming there are no others. Okay. Second point on the agenda are minutes. They're approved by myself. Is that acceptable, Steve and Ben and James? Thank you. Third point on the agenda is public participation. So at this point, I would like to welcome Dave Merritt. Dave, you have 3 minutes to talk. I know that you're an ex-councillor and that you understand the rules. So you've got 3 minutes to talk, and I'm just trying to figure out, somebody's done it for me, how to unmute you. So your 3 minutes start now, and welcome to the meeting. Can't hear you, Dave. Hello? Hello? Can you hear us, Dave? David?
I can hear you.
Can hear you now. Perfect.
Right.
Okay, absolutely perfect. Apologies, I don't know what, there are gremlins in every system. I've decided It doesn't matter how good your IT is, there's gremlins in everything. As I said, many thanks for your participation. You've got 3 minutes if you would like to start.
Yeah, thank you. Can I welcome the opportunity to speak about the air quality situation in the city on behalf of Clean Air York? The Council's last annual report covering 2019 reminds us that there has been a welcome general downward trend in nitrogen dioxide concentrations monitored across the city since 2012, although year-on-year improvements have been less pronounced over the last 2 to 3 years reported. It showed that with respect to the city centre air quality management areas, exceedances of the health-based annual mean NO2 objective for 40 micrograms per metre cubed were monitored in Gilligate, Holgate Road, Blossom Street and Rogier Street, George Hudson Street technical breach areas in 2019. It also noted that air quality improvement measures over and above those planned for 2020 and outlined in that report might be required to fully deliver the air quality objectives in all areas of technical breach in the city. We now know that the majority of UK cities in 2020, despite the significant first COVID-related lockdown reductions in air pollution and continued home working, by October, figures had generally returned to or exceeded the start of the lockdown levels. According to the recent December 2020 Centre for Cities report, the York figure was in the former category. Part 4 of the Environment Act 1995, which covers England, Scotland and Wales, and the Environment Northern Ireland Order 2002, requires all local authorities in the UK to review and assess air quality in their area. If any standards are being exceeded or unlikely to be met by the required date, then that area should be designated an air quality management area, as we've done in York. And it then goes on to say the local authority must draw up and implement an action plan aimed at reducing levels of the pollutant. Local authorities are required to make copies of their reviews and assessments of local air quality available to public, as well as any orders designating an AQMA, and to consult locally on the action plan. The Council's last Air Quality Action Plan 3 covered the years 2015 to 2020 and has therefore expired. So the Council is now, as far as I can see, in breach of its statutory duties.
Can I therefore
ask the executive member, given the ongoing damage to York residents' health and related loss of life from air pollution in the city, that they ask officers to urgently produce a new draft air quality plan for consultation and implementation as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
David, many thanks. I don't have all that information at my fingertips to answer you, so I'll note your comments. discuss it with officers, and we will get back to you. Okay, many thanks for your comments. Right, okay. The next item on our agenda is the 5-year flood plan update. I'm going to go to the two experts in the room, who are Ben and Steve.
Thank you, Councillor. This is the quarterly update that we'll bring to your decision session on the works, not just for the ongoing programme of flood defence improvements across the city, but obviously other flood issues and aspects. Annex 1 of the report is the quarterly update from the Environment Agency, and Ben Hughes is part of this call now, and we'll give you a brief update after I've finished. The only other thing I want to really pull your attention to in the report is the update on the potential works in Fulford. That's one aspect of the programme of works that City of York Council are leading on. There are joint benefits to be gained in Fulford from the council developing those works. The Environment Agency, because of the way that the funding works, wouldn't be able to target the same wider benefits in the same way that we potentially can. So just an update there in the report to say that the early appraisal work has now led us to a situation where we believe that there's a scheme that we can take forward, and we are just currently finalising the contracts with consultants to actually take that through to the ultimately through the detailed design, the planning and various different approval stages. We'll bring updates on that as we carry on through the project. I think the only other thing I would say as well, Councillor, is this report was written before the Christmas period, and we did have another flood event in the city over the Christmas period from Storm Bella, which was a considerable flood through York, but pleased to say well within the design capacity of our works that we carry out as City of York Council and the formal flood defences that we already have in place through the city. So I'd just like to say thanks to everyone from the council that worked throughout the event, and the Environment Agency, and to all of our residents and other partners out there who obviously all paid heed to all the various flood warnings and forecasting and messaging that we put out over that period. So just a recognition of that, really, because it happened subsequent to this report being finalised.
And so just to build on that, Steve, Steve, before we go to Ben, I must give my thanks to both yourself and to James and to Ben and his team for how swiftly you moved those operations out. I mean, it was just about 4 metres, which 4 or 5 years ago, that would have been a massive consequence to our city. You now have the operations and the processes in place that you do it without us sometimes noticing. So many thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Ben, if you'd like to give a brief update, please.
Yeah, so I'm not proposing to go through the paper that I provided in any detail. I think the thing to stress is that it's been difficult over the last 12 months with the COVID restrictions. However, we have continued, and I think demonstrating on the first item on there around the engagement just highlights, I think, some of the key facts and the work that's gone into keeping the city informed of the works that we're doing. We've got updates, obviously, on each of the projects. They were written before Christmas, before this potential third lockdown. We're working with our suppliers to understand if there'll be any impact. At the moment, it's looking unlikely that we'll see any impact from this third lockdown to the works. Generally speaking, we are working in a COVID-safe manner on all our sites. And our suppliers are well versed at doing that now. So it shouldn't mean any impact as we move forward. I think that's it, really, unless you've got any particular questions on any areas within the report.
I don't have any questions. I've just got a couple of comments. One, I'm really keen to know and actually see, because I'm very curious, when we're going to get the Fossgate barrier in. That I'd be really keen to watch happen. And secondly, I'm just delighted at how well our teams are now working together. The communication is much smoother and clearer. So that's a real step forward and will really improve things over 2021.
Yeah, okay. Just to come back on the Foss barrier. So today the stop logs have gone in at the Foss barrier, which is the start of the process to replace the gate. We've got work over the next couple of weeks, and at the moment, if everything goes to plan, we're looking at removing the old gate on the 18th of January, and the new gate will go in with that week as well, and then it'll be a matter of then connecting it all up and making it work. Throughout the whole process, the site, the asset, the pumping station will be fully operational, so there's no additional risk to the members of the public because of the work that we're doing. So we're managing it all throughout that process. So hopefully by the next time we meet, then the new gate will be in and everything will be resolved regarding the FOSS barrier.
Fantastic. That's really good news.
I think the forecast is looking quite favourable, isn't it, Ben, over the next few weeks as well?
Yeah, the forecast is, well, yeah, fingers crossed. I don't like to say that.
Mixed, isn't it? But yeah.
But yeah, certainly for the next few weeks. Having said that, even if we got a storm coming through, we would still be able to operate the pumping station as is, so it wouldn't impact on anybody. So there should be no impact from the works that we're doing on any members of the public. And I just want to stress that if anybody's concerned, really.
Okay. Steve, any further comments?
No, Ben's team are liaising with myself and colleagues in highways and the like regarding the various footpath closures and operational issues that are happening around the FOSS barrier gate there. With regard to Ben's wider update, I think everything that we all need to see is in there, and I'd echo Ben's comments on, your own comments, Councillor, on how we're working together on all these things. You know, with each planning application that comes forward and each piece of work that comes forward, I think sometimes there's just a little bit where we need to mesh the gears and make sure that we're talking each other's language and make sure we're illustrating which parts of the application give us which pieces of information we need. But each time it's becoming slicker and better like that. So yeah, I'd echo your comments, Councillor, and we'll continue to work closely together on it.
James, any comments?
No, I don't think so. I think just to, I appreciate the thanks for the work done over Christmas to myself, but we'll pass those on to the frontline staff who stood out in the cold and made those things happen. So they're the people who did the real work. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Okay, so the final part of the agenda is on to any other business. And I just have one question. So the report's great. Through the Yorkshire RFCCC, CC, can't even read my own writing, we have been made aware that DEFRA have made funding available for 25 projects across the country to deliver flood resilience innovation programmes over the next 6 years. It's good news, and I'm very keen that York are involved in this process and understand that the closing date for funding bids is imminent. Can you give me an update on this, please?
Yeah, this is the DEFRA grant, as you say, the innovation grant, and it's for lead local flood authorities, which is the likes of ourselves as unitary or where they exist, county level authorities, to pull together bids to deliver programmes of work to build flood resilience that are innovative, i.e. aren't of the norm. So the millions of pounds that we're spending in York at the minute via the EA leading on all the schemes there. Although the science and the engineering within all of that is fantastic, it's not necessarily seen as innovative because it's proven, it's something that's been in place many, many years. So we're looking for different approaches, different ways of warning and informing, different ways of forecasting, different ways of communicating flood risk and a whole load of different things. So when the call for funding came out in very late November, we'd already started to hold conversations with partners and with the Environment Agency, so some of Ben's colleagues, a piece of work that we've been looking at over the whole of the Swale Uren Nid catchment, which forms the ooze upstream of York, essentially, about how we can provide that climate change sponge, if you like, into the future. The defences in York are fantastic and essential, but going forward as climate change takes hold, we'll need to do more within the wider catchment area upstream of York to actually hold the additional waters back that we'll be seeing as climate change comes in. So there was already an approach of computerised modelling to look at the hydrology and what we might need in the future. So in talking with the EA and other parts of the Environment Agency, so the teams that look at the environmental improvement programmes, so looking at biodiversity and catchment sensitive farming and all of these sort of aspects, we started to think about how we could use that modelling, enhance it, and use it to really target at a relatively local level the sort of measures that could be put in place to reduce flood risk further downstream. So that could be changing the way that farming practices are carried out. It could be afforestation. It could be moorland peat restoration. You know, a whole number of different measures. And it will also be, but could also be, increasing the amount of water that's stored within those sort of areas. And there's already significant amounts of water attenuated in those areas now. But the innovative bit of this is to then say, well, if we did this there, it will deliver these benefits here. And too often we develop these schemes a little bit in isolation. We carry out the computer modelling in a darkened room. We go to the landowners that can provide the solution and say, you know, we'd like to do this here to benefit these people downstream. And there's not really a contract, not really anything in place between the seller of the solution and the buyer of the solution, the people that benefit. So the real innovation in this would be using that modelling to actually say, if we do this here, it will benefit these people in Ripon, in Boroughbridge and York in these ways, and actually then incentivize those people to look to actually bring in other monies from elsewhere to actually develop those schemes and get them in place. And to do that, we would be using various different methods of communication and influencing. So we're talking with consultants at the minute regarding the modelling. We're talking with the Environment Agency on the two aspects, the rich from the flood risk and from the Environment Programme. We're talking to all of the different catchment partnerships out there, the Dales to Vales Rivers, the River Swale catchment partnerships, the River Eure catchment partnerships, all these different partnerships. We're all really keen to work with us on this. Importantly, we're working with North Yorkshire County Council. It has to be one authority that leads. We would be the lead authority in that we would be submitting the bid, but colleagues in North Yorkshire County Council are really keen on this as well. We're talking to the Local Enterprise Partnership, who are really keen on this. So, Angela Lewson and other people there at the, Angela Lehman in the Local Enterprise Partnership, really keen to work with us on this. And we're talking to the University of York as well regarding those ways of really illustrating these opportunities to people in different and innovative ways. And we think that we've got a really interesting bid here. So the bids should have been in by next Friday, which is the 15th. But over the Christmas period, so Storm Bella, plus obviously now the latest lockdown and the impact on partners working. Nationally, DEFRA have been lobbied to actually extend that deadline. So they have actually agreed to extend the deadline to the 29th of January. So we will be working to the 29th of January. Clearly, as this has evolved, I've not had a chance to put pen to paper and put it as a formal submission into the decision session here. So I thank you for raising it. It's really good for me to have the opportunity to raise this formally within the meeting. If we are successful and shortlisted, which will be springtime, they will be giving funding to the shortlist of projects to actually work with the business case in more detail. So I'd suggest, Councillor, that if we are one of those projects, that we bring a further paper to the next decision session outlining how this is moving forward and where we are with this.
That is a fantastic and fulsome update. Just one quick question from me. Could we make sure that the Northern Forest are also in as one of the partners? I'm assuming they're in through the LEP, because I know that we're involved in a project for 200 hectares in the same catchment areas to plant trees. So if we can meld those together, that would be fabulous. Absolutely fantastic update. I think we need to record this as a decision that we support this work. So we'll get that recorded for that. And I am delighted to see that we've stopped working within geographical boundaries and that we're actually working within who benefits. Fabulous piece of work. Thank you ever so much, Steve.
Thank you, Councillor.
Is there any other business? No, in which case I will draw the meeting to a close and have an enjoyable and exciting rest of the day. Many thanks.